All right. Well, so in a serial entrepreneur's inimitable fashion, I started building this presentation last night about 8 p.m. Got to bed at 3:30 a.m. And here I am presenting it for the first time in public. So here we go. I hope I can do this in 6 minutes. You can see this is where the parking garage is going to be. Hopefully my next slide will have something to do with me. Apparently it doesn't, but I'd like to say it's an honor to be here at A Million Cups, and really glad the Kauffman Foundation is doing some great stuff. So we've ended that presentation, and David, can we boot up my keynote presentation? Here, good news is I'm a technologist and I know how to do this stuff. So this happens to be us. Some similar colors, actually, to 1 Million Cups. DigiThinkIT is a custom software shop. We've been around for a few years. My name is Eric Delisle. I'm the founder and CEO. We have a dedicated team working on a particular project, which is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. We build custom software solutions for other companies, but we also build our own products that we're taking to market. About 9 months ago, I got a hair up my butt and decided that enough was enough with all this stuff coming out with people being tracked and all these other things. And you've seen a huge blow up in this industry right now because it's a big concern for a lot of people. This is about privacy online, privacy offline, your ability to be who you are as a human being. It's getting tricky out there. You know, the big question is, who's watching? Well, it turns out everybody's watching. It's not just Big Brother, it's big data, it's insurance companies, it's marketing firms. For the vast majority of this, I'm not here to be a fear monger. The vast majority of this is harmless, it's fine, we want it in our lives. We have a lot of great services that we get from these companies because they get to use us as a product and sell our information to potential advertisers. Who's tracking you? Well, pretty much everybody's tracking you right now. If you're online, somebody's watching, I'm telling you. If you're offline, somebody's watching too. So we have surveillance cameras all over the place. Your license plate is being photographed on a daily basis as you drive around town. It'll be stored for the next 15 years. They can pull up those maps and all that other neat stuff. There's GPS data. There's all kinds of stuff that we ooze, digital ooze that comes out of our lives, and it's being tracked and collated pretty quickly. What happens with this stuff? Well, there's big users of it, things like the NSA that we've heard a lot about in the news, surreptitiously monitoring and watching what people are doing. But then there's other things like, how many people, raise your hand if you've heard of Acxiom? So there's 2, 3 people, 4 people in the audience that have ever heard of Acxiom. One of the largest companies in the world in the data space. These guys have personal dossiers on every single one of you with your name, address, phone number, and everything that they can possibly glean about you, and they sell it to industry. What kinds of sales do they make? Well, here's a company, Aviva. How many people, raise your hand if you've heard of Aviva? One person. Probably has some international business experience. This is a very massive multinational insurance type company. And they were spotlighted in the Wall Street Journal recently for taking data from companies like Acxiom and combining it with your personally identifiable information, your name, social security number, and all that stuff, to create a risk profile about you to determine what rates to charge you for your insurance, your health insurance, and things like that. That's the future of where we are today. It's not even the future, it's today. So, does it matter to people? Well, in our research, it turns out it matters to a lot of people. It doesn't matter to everybody, but it matters to a lot of people, including me. There's also direct threats, and these are things that you hear about, people hacking. I was just on the news again last week about skimmers, where the ATM cards are stealing your bank account information. It's bad, and it's getting worse. This stuff is so complex, the things that they're able to do. The point here that I would like for everybody to take away from this is that it's at a point now where the average human being who's not an uber geek like me, they're just lost. It's so bewildering. There's tools out there but they're not easy to use. They're not turnkey for the average non-technical person. Even things as simple as the right to be forgotten, which this made headlines, international headlines, with Google losing a court case in the EU, where the European Union said, hey, you know what? Human beings have a fundamental right, even to be forgotten. Well, that's not possible right now. Right now, with everything that's being stored about you, if you wanted to be forgotten, or let's say you just made a little mistake, it's going to be instantly retrievable forever. So the challenge to dealing with this, technology has become so complex, the networks are complex, it's almost impossible now to detect some of the threats that are out there. You guys could have, raise your hand if you have an Android phone in here. 92% of all Android phones are susceptible to RATs, remote access tools. You could actually go on some interesting places that I know, and for a couple $100, you don't even have to be a programmer. You could be a blind monkey, and you can get a hold of a piece of software that can access people's Android phones and root them. Well, what can you do with that? If you turn off your phone, I could still turn on your microphone and your camera and stream that data to me without you knowing and you thinking that your phone was off. These aren't fantasies, these are happening every day. So if you can't know whether or not you can trust your own computer that you work on, what do? Well, hopefully you buy Icloak. What is Icloak? Icloak is quite literally just a small little device. Excuse me, I wasn't prepared here. I actually brought one with me. It's a small little USB device. And basically what it allows you to do is you can be a completely non-technical user. There we go. Prototype. You can be a completely non-technical user, take this thing and plug it into any computer, Mac, PC, Linux, and you reboot the system. Once you reboot the system, it allows you to do several things. Number one is it automatically puts you on the Tor network. All of your traffic goes over this network called Tor. Raise your hand if you've heard of Tor. Okay, so about a third of you. Tor is an international network of individual computers and relays that basically takes your data and hops it all over the place so that it's next to impossible to track, unless you're able to track every computer on the network, which you're really not. So it provides you with anonymous browsing, resistance to malware, spyware, viruses. If you've rebooted your computer, you're not using your computer anymore when you use Icloak. So if you had a virus that was on your system that you didn't know about, it would never load, because we never actually touch your hard drive and we don't load the software that you had on your computer. And this is a quick video of what it looks like, sped up to try and make it into a 6-minute presentation, which I think I'm probably already over. So here we see on a Macintosh, in this case, we stuck this little device in, we rebooted the computer, you pressed Option, and it loads this. So this is a whole new computer system. Now we're connecting to a wireless network. It allows you to use your hardware, your keyboard, your mouse, your wireless card, all your internet connections, but it never touches your hard drive. So now we're online, and you can see, you wouldn't really know what this is, but that IP address is probably from someplace in Belgium or someplace else in the world that's not Orlando. And that's how easy it is to get online with Icloak. So where are we? This is a startup for us. We really started programming this about 9 months ago, or we had the idea for it, started working on building it. Here we are in June 2014. We have already shipped alpha units that are out in testers' hands. We're in the process of doing primary market research, and you can read a bunch of this other stuff. At the end of this whole thing, our next goal is to start bringing this to market, testing it a little bit further, adding a few more features to it, including things like password management, some additional tools to allow you to do some productivity things, because if you don't have access to your hard drive, you don't have your Microsoft Word or things like that to work on. This would actually give you that ability. We're also working on some very interesting serverless email technologies to be able to give you the ability to send an email from me to Claudio, where only I have a copy and only Claudio has a copy Hotmail doesn't have a copy, Gmail doesn't have a copy, your Exchange server at work doesn't have a copy. It's peer-to-peer email. So there's a lot of neat stuff that we're working on, but it's not just about software. Icloak is intended, and my vision for it is to build a privacy and anonymity brand, a trusted brand that non-technical people can use to take back some of their choice. We're not going to be able to help protect everybody from everything, but we're already working on prototypes for these things that go over your license plate to stop the cameras from being able to photograph your license plate when you're driving around. Faraday cage bags for your phones so that they don't send radio signals when you don't want them to, and lots of other neat stuff. Thank you very much. I'm ready for questions. That wasn't 6 minutes, was it? Yeah.
Okay. We have one question right there. If you have a question, raise your hand so we can get you a mic to you.
Two questions, actually. First of all, how do you balance the need for safety and security with the possibility of somebody using the Icloak for nefarious purposes? And the second one is, do you guys collect any data about the customers?
Fine question. Yes, we're always watching you. We collect and collate everything about you. I've already done facial recognition on everyone in here. By the way, Brian, you should pick up your trash is in the front of your house. Anyway, to answer your question, first of all, no, we are architecting all of our systems to actually store zero data on people. One of those reasons is even encrypted data can be subpoenaed, but if you don't have any data, there's nothing to subpoena. So we're working on that for our architecture when we launch. We're not launched yet. We're still in alpha testing. The other question that you asked was about how do you balance the privacy security thing? Well, first of all, I would like to say that the criminals that are doing the criminal things right now, they already have these tools. They've been doing this stuff like I have for years. Now, I'm not a criminal, but but for years I've been using the Tor network long before anybody ever heard of what Tor was. And I use networks like I2P that you probably, maybe one or two of you have ever heard of. So these tools exist. We have actually built a bunch of our stuff based on some open source projects that were out there, and the dog's barking. Based on some open source projects that were out there. And what our goal was to take those things that we've been able to use, and this is my dad, by the way, with the barking phone. But my dad, a brilliant man, but at 75 years old, he isn't the greatest technologist that I know. So yeah, he's close, but he doesn't quite understand how to do some of this stuff. So I really wanted to build tools that my dad could just simply use. The criminals don't need this stuff. They have already got it.
I'm curious if the watchers can detect what you're doing for us. Our company is targeted to be working in a lot of countries where they have a firewall over the entire nation. Mm-hmm. So this type of technology really appeals to me, but I'm curious what happens if they detect it. Well, if they can, and what they do when they do.
Yeah, that's a great question. There's several answers to this. First of all, with a tunnel protocol where you're encrypting your traffic from the point of Icloak. One of the solutions that we'll also be providing is a turnkey VPN service. But we've actually dealt with issues, not to get crazy uber geeky, but you need ways of being able to spot the computers that you're trying to talk to online. Usually that's done with a DNS server or a centralized server. There are ways now of doing it in a decentralized way where they actually exist in this relay network through distributed hash tables, and it allows where we can create bridges and tunnels that get around these great firewalls of China and Iran and other countries that are locked down. And allow you to get out and around those things. Yes?
Thanks. This is intriguing. Question, could you tell me a little about your personal journey and how you got here? Two, is there any IP / and who do you see are the competitors?
Okay, two questions. My journey is a very long, circuitous route. I am an insane serial entrepreneur. I mean, I don't know how far back you want me to go, but let's just start recently. So this technology company, I've done the whole .com boom thing and did the whole Silicon Valley thing and all that. But this technology company I started just a few years ago. Icloak itself started really around this time of all the Snowden releases. There was the Bradley Manning stuff and Snowden and WikiLeaks before that. And you know, for what it's worth, not to talk politics, but in 2012, I was never really a political person. You know, just kind of born and raised Republican, and you know, that's who I was, but I never paid attention. In 2012, I started paying a little more attention and became a big Ron Paul fan. Started paying attention to the liberty movement and some, like, what the Constitution actually says. It's interesting. When all these revelations came out, it really hit me that people like my dad and my brothers and sisters and average folks that I know, they have no tools to be able to protect themselves. And I didn't see a big solution in the marketplace. So I thought, well, you know, hey, I'm an entrepreneur. This is what I do. So let's do this. So that's my basic personal journey there. And the second part of the question was? IP and competitors. I will tell you that from a competitive standpoint right now, God knows what's happening. But what I do know is that I came up with the name Icloak. We registered for our trademark, and within a few months after that, there's 3 other Cloak or Icloak names that have been registered since. There's a bunch of projects that are starting up. There's funding that's being poured into cybersecurity and these privacy and anonymity products. You have big, you know, things like Snapchat and Wickr and some of these messaging services that have been offered billions of dollars by Facebook. So there's a groundswell in the industry. For this particular product, I only know of 3 competitive-like things. One of those is Tails, which is the open source project from Tor that some of these ideas were based on. One of the challenges with Tails is you got to be fairly technically savvy to configure your BIOS or your UEFI boot on your computer and blah, blah, blah. So it's a little bit of a hurdle for non-tech folks. There's 2 other products out in the marketplace, but they actually depend on running on your system while your system is running. We saw that as a major flaw, because if you have all the firewalls in the world and you have, you know, your cookies you're not accepting cookies and you're blocking pop-ups and you have JavaScript shut off and no flash and you've done everything to protect yourself and you're using encryption and VPNs but some hacker is watching your screen and logging every keystroke that you do, what's all that other stuff really matter? So in our view of the world, the only way you could be safe and know that you were safe is if the only person you had to trust was yourself. And that's what Icloak, one of our founding principles with these technologies, is being able to trust yourself. And with this device, it can't be written to. So there's no way to change it. So you know every time that you boot, it's a fresh system and it's clean. Okay?
Sorry, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
I have the microphone, so. If you are marketing to the general public and it's kind of sort of fear-based, because you just put the fear in me about my droid.
Yeah, sorry about that.
How do you go about branding your company to where the general public, who now are afraid of everyone,
Yeah.
how are they going to trust your brand?
Trust us, yeah. That's a great point.
How would you go about
several
that?
things. We've really been working very hard in the last few months to develop this. It's a thing about trust is at a certain point, by its definition, you have to make decisions about the trustworthiness of someone or something, and it's a leap of faith at a certain point, right? I mean, because believe me, I could scare you more if I told you the other stuff that's available out there, and you couldn't even know that the driver that's on the physical chip in that USB drive that hasn't been compromised. And so we're actually working on supply chain issues also. So there's a lot of questions. There are some answers, though. One of those answers is we have formed a great relationship with the Tor project itself. Tor has an incredible reputation. Even Edward Snowden himself came out and said, this is the one network that the NSA can't get their arms around. And that's one of the reasons it's so upsetting to those guys. And we will end up being the very first ever commercial Tor certified product. We're working with them that closely right now. So they're going to be doing a code review. They're going to be tearing apart all of our stuff. We also reach out to groups like the CCDC at UCF. They just won first place again as the #1 cyber defense club in the nation, beating out MIT, Duke, Berkeley. We have that right here in Orlando, guys, if you didn't know that. Huh? Yeah. And so, we have guys from the teams that we literally give devices to and ask them to beat the hell out of it. All of our code is going to be freely available and open sourced, so the community will be able to vet it. And one of our plans is to go through a full paid third-party code audit that allows a third party to certify that there's no backdoors, there's no malicious software, and that when you're using the device, it does what we say that it does. So we're working on things like that. We've also brought in John Mills, who's the professor emeritus of University of Florida Law School. He literally wrote the book Privacy, Lost Right. So we're even working on those levels to make sure that what we're doing fits within the legal frameworks and also allows us to push the boundaries back against laws that are out there that are infringing on your privacy. So I hope that helps.
So you're partnering up with other brands who already have that presence and the trust of the public, so that they can vouch for
exactly.
your company.
Yeah, and quite frankly, that's one technique for doing something like that, right?
And we're going to take one more question from the audience, and then we're going to start to wrap up.
Sometimes you want to be found, and sometimes you don't want to be found.
Yeah.
Can you turn it on and off?
Yeah. Basically, when you're using this little device, you're invisible. When you're not using it, you're on your regular computer, and you're just doing what you're doing. So yeah, and by the way, it's intended. Our use case, what we've learned from talking to people, is that the use case is not a daily, every day, all the time, you're always using Icloak. It's when you want to be private, when you want to be anonymous, or when you want to be ultra secure or ultra safe. So let's say you're actually doing something that you're like, I want to make sure that there's no chance that anybody's paying attention to this, whether it's logging in your bank account or doing something else.
Okay, in the spirit of 1 million cups, we have to have our traditional question: what can we do as the community? What can we do for you?
Primarily, right now we're just in this exciting stage where we're trying to learn from you guys. We need more market feedback. Please go to our website. You can sign up to be a beta tester, actually. So you can go there. We have another round of testers that are going out. Very soon we're going to be launching a Kickstarter campaign. So we're going to need all the help that we can get spreading the word about that. And tonight, actually, I'm hosting a private investor presentation. That's kind of weird in a environment like this, but if anybody knows any investors that want to learn about what we're doing tonight, we're about half subscribed over the last couple of weeks, so we'll hope to close it tonight.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Yep, very much.
I'm sorry about the presentation. Okay, well, that's the end of our first one. As you know, this is an all-volunteer organization, and it can't be done without the generous support of, first and foremost, our sponsors. Joycaster, Rudy over here, streams all of our presentations so that we can view, so people who aren't here can view them, and so we can view them later on. Rollins Department for Advanced Entrepreneurship has donated the space. I don't actually see any of the Rollins folks here today, but they've been tremendously supportive. And Barney's Coffee, please. All the great coffee out there is donated every week by Barney's. Please tweet all these people, get them give them the notoriety they deserve for all their generous donations. And of course, all the organizers. Well, in order, Ron, who's not here this week. Hi, Ron. He's somewhere giving a presentation himself. Natalie, Shay, myself, and somewhere behind there in Kansas City is Nancy. So, thanks, Nancy. And then our next speaker is the Daily 100. You probably remember them a couple weeks ago. We had a little bit of an issue. But we made up, we made nice, and he had some health issues that we understood. So we're giving him a second chance. So please warmly welcome Nick from the Daily 100.
All right, hello. Is it working? Cool. Well, thanks, Dave, for having me, and thank you all for being here this morning. I know it's a little early for some folks. But yeah, just out of curiosity, how many of you in here are entrepreneurs? Wow. Okay, and how many that didn't raise their hand hope to one day be entrepreneurs if you're not already? Well, I guess it looks like I'm in the right place. You know, I don't know if they tell you when you finally get that idea and you actually still go out and do it, they're going to expect you to come and speak in front of groups like this, and nobody told me that, but that's, you know, here I am. So yeah, here we are today. My company, you know, back in 2009 when I was in college, I was actually posting a joke on Reddit, right? Sitting there posting a joke, and the response and feedback that happened as a product of that joke actually led me to create what is now the Daily 100, which has raised over $1 million in venture capital funding in the past, over our life cycle. And today, I'm here to tell you a little bit about what we do and how I got there, and go from there. So actually, as of next Monday, we're rebranding and changing our name to Loot. So what does all this mean without any context behind what we do, right? So what we do at the Daily 100 is we reward, we encourage businesses and brands to reward and engage with customers for sharing and promoting them across social networks and social media. So basically, we help bring incentivized word of mouth to businesses and brands on a scalable level. This is something, word of mouth advertising is, you know, obviously every marketer's dream. But how do we get that at scale? How do we get that in a way that can be managed and brought to, you know, people beyond that top level celebrity influencer? Well, that's what we did. With Daily 100 and now Loot, we've created a platform that allows brands and businesses to come in and create campaigns and drive traffic, drive engagement with not only new customers and new fans, but also with existing customers to tap into that unreached, you know, word of mouth effect that I'm sure every person in this room has. Whether it's, you know, whether you have a sphere of 3 or 4 people that trust what you say, or whether you have a sphere of, you know, 80 or even thousands of Twitter followers, you have a sphere of influence, and that deserves to be rewarded, and that has value. So what we do is we bring to light, maybe you don't talk about what brand of toilet paper you've used. I bet you couldn't tell me what what kind of dishwasher detergent your neighbor uses or your best friend uses. And that's something that, you know, we aren't necessarily afraid to tell them, we just have no need to tell them, or we don't have any reason to. And now, with our platform, what you do, we can help brands and businesses make those connections and make those types of things happen. So what we have right here, you can earn anywhere from small micro rewards to large prizes to come out and create engaging material. And this isn't just a shout out or a tweet. This can be something as engaging as going someplace, checking in, and taking a photo with a group of friends, or with, you know, showing a picture of your favorite meal. And so we did all of that, and we started this back in August of 2012 with a beta, an alpha test that was a really poorly conceived product. We went back and did a beta test, and we've actually had a lot of we've had some test results and had businesses using this. And it works. We had, hold on, where's the next page? There it is. So we worked with Florida Music Festival as one of our big beta projects. And we got them with less than, I think, 90 days in advance of their festival. We were able to help them get increase their sales 30%, their advanced ticket sales. This is an institution that's been around for 14 years in Orlando. We were able to get them more than, I think, 85,000 unique views, and 3,500 different people shared content from their festival in advance of the show. With a local franchise, Domino's franchise, we were able to increase same-day sales 25%. We were able to increase the number of people talking about them over 3,000%. These are real numbers that have affected real local businesses without the traction and help of our user base. Now, and it's not just the small brands that are paying attention. Tomorrow I'm going to be in New York presenting with Macy's. They're closing a deal with Macy's, and I'm working with Gilt Group. Friday I'm talking to the NFL. This has big implications for what we're doing on a social level, and this platform works, which is obviously the most important piece. So to tell you a little bit about myself, this is all great, but how did I get here, right? Back in 2009, like I told you when I started this, I didn't have a background in marketing. I didn't know how to code. I didn't have financial connections to angel groups or anything like that. So how did I get to the point where I am today, where I'm able to have a business that makes money, that is, we have a very robust technology platform. We're native on iOS, we're native on Android. We've got an HTML5 platform. We've had a lot of really exciting things happen, and that's with more than enough bumps and bruises that should have probably left us on our back. So what I'm here today to do is, and talk to you guys about, rather than try to pitch you as to why you should sign up for, Loot, is pick your guys' brain and sort of see what you're interested in hearing about. I'd love this, if you guys want to talk about marketing, social media trends, I'm happy to discuss that with you. If you want to talk about, how to raise money, I'm happy to discuss that too. If you want to talk about, building a sales team and strategy from scratch, I'm happy to go over that as well. Hiring and firing developers and engineers, that's something I'm happy to do too. So, that's what I want to do here is try to see if there's anything that I can guide this conversation to make it helpful and resourceful for you guys, and hopefully, we can have a productive conversation from that. So, thank you.
Okay, who has questions? Please raise your hand. Oh.
So not understanding or having a technical background, how did you get started? Did you outsource all that, and where did you go from developing your platform then?
Definitely. So that's I meet a lot of people every day that say they've got a great idea and they're trying to figure out how to get it into an app, right, or how to get it into some technology form. We went through a lot of really fortunately cheap mistakes on the development side early on that helped us find a lot of, I wouldn't say bad developers, or engineers, but I would say people who weren't equipped with the skill set that we needed for the scope of the project. So we got lucky that we went through a lot of lemons before we were able to finally get that core group of people. We've probably had a roughly 34 engineers total, different individuals, and of those we have about 7 on our team right now. So we've had to quickly turn over. We've had to have a lot of turnover to get where we are. Otherwise, you run out of money really fast. And obviously, how do you get to that point before you can get to the? We've interviewed. I've interviewed personally probably over 1,000 engineers and developers on the phone over the course of my timeline. And so you end up being able to. The only way I can really say if you don't have that background is if you don't. You kind of have to just get used to hearing and knowing when someone's telling you the truth and when someone's giving you kind of a BS line or a generic line. And a lot of that comes down to how well you fine-tune your job description, for instance. That'll filter out people who kind of will think that they know what you're looking for, and they'll know that they can't try to fool you into thinking that just because they know how to do front-end user interface doesn't mean they're going to be able to code your back end. things like that. So.
Nick, could you expand a little bit on the trial that you showed as an example, the Florida Music Festival? They increased their business 30%. How much did they pay out in incentives to get that 30% increase in business?
Definitely. So what we actually did, they did something a little unique and different, and it just sort of speaks to the versatility of our platform, which, even today, doing this for 2 years, I haven't been able to really think of even probably 40% of the total use cases. I mean, it's massive. So they actually did is they gave out one of the best prizes for them. It was a free prize. We did basically they had their 3 headline artists. I don't know, for those who aren't familiar, it's a 3-day festival, and you basically have 3 different bands headline each day, and obviously somebody has to open for those bands. So what they did for the first time is they opened that opening stage act. They made an open competition out of it using our platform, and they let all these bands, they have over 800 bands apply to play in this festival from all over the southeastern United States. And what they did is they had these 3 bands come in, and or they had all these I think they narrowed it down to 100 bands, and then they let those 100 bands participate in this contest, and they said, whoever has the most votes gets to open for, Less Than Jake, or gets to open for Air, or whoever their artist was. And so through that process, that actually gave them something that was a very tangible reward, and that was very exciting for those bands. They were going all out. They were going across social media telling all their fans to come and vote for them. And so through that mechanism, they were able to provide a free service or a free product that was able to give them, that was very, a great result. And as a follow-up to that, they ended up doing a campaign where fans, they basically had biggest fan contest for Less Than Jake and the other headline artists, and the fans that won got to do a VIP meet and greet. So they got free tickets and they got to go and meet the bands. So they actually didn't end up having to, they didn't pay anything tangible cash-wise to get those results. But for instance, when Domino's did it, they were doing challenges where they were giving away $100 to the person that got the best picture with their delivery guy. They were trying, they weren't. The franchise owner we were working with was very confident in the pizza, the quality. He was more interested in, they just undergone a huge human resources push to get their delivery drivers more friendly and approachable. And so this was his way of kind of translating that into these are the friendly faces of Domino's. These are the delivery guys. You should be excited when they come to your door. And that's how they ended up. So that's sort of what Domino's did versus what these guys did.
How do you make money? What's the business model?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we've got a monthly subscription basically where businesses or brands will pay a small fee depending on how much they want, how wide scale their campaign is going to be and how many actions and redemptions they're going to have. So it can be anywhere from $20 a month just to get in the door, and then that's when you basically will come in and set up your campaigns. And whether you can give away cash or non-cash prizes. So if you're a business, you want to give away free desserts or drinks or appetizers or even coupons, you can do that. And if you want to give away 50 cents, you can give away 50 cents. We handle the cash distribution payouts through our app and our wallet payment system. So that's sometimes a lot easier for businesses because it's hands-free. But we get paid that way. For larger scale enterprises, and people who want to have managed campaigns, we offer higher level pricing packages to help support that. But our back end is completely self-serve capable and accessible, so businesses don't have to talk to me or one of our guys to actually do anything to use it.
I have a question. How are you able to track your Loot's contribution to the increase of business if they are running other campaigns on other platforms, or maybe, obviously their business is being talked about already on the social networks, and there's other people spreading the words outside of Loot. So how do you differentiate or are able to report on Loot's impact to the increase of business?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question. So what we do is we've got a proprietary, or it's not proprietary yet, but we've got a system that we're building, or that we've built, that allows you to track exactly what your reach is. So what most advertising and marketing companies, particularly Facebook, Twitter, they'll tell you your reach is if I have 1,000 friends, you have 1,000 friends, they'll say our reach is 2,000. If 5 of them overlap, we'll have 1995, right? And then they'll say if we both post something, that's our reach. The reality is maybe only 50 of our friends got online that day. And maybe only 100 of your friends saw the post, only 50 of mine. Our real reach was only 150. We actually track that, and that's what we tell businesses and brands. That's what we have on our dashboard. So we're able to determine exactly how many people are seeing your ads or seeing your message and share, which isn't as sexy and big a number as what a lot of people say, but it's accurate, which is makes a big difference when you want to calculate click-through rate and things like that, where you're like, why are only 0.05% of people clicking through? Was it really that bad of a campaign? Well, no, it was only seen by this small group of people, so your click-through rate was actually 5%, which is through the roof. So we're able to track things like that with our system, but there's a lot of whether you want to do a differentiation in your campaign type, or you just a lot of businesses and brands do have a multi-layered with multifaceted campaign and brand awareness campaign, and that's kind of sometimes you get thrown in and clumped with that, but we're able to track all of our metrics pretty easily, so we can help tell them what came from where.
I have one more question because Alex is not here, and when he's here, he always asks this question of our entrepreneurs. And being that you seem to have a lot of experience and a lot to offer entrepreneurs in the audience, what would you say you would have, choices that you might have done differently from the beginning that that now in hindsight, you kind of would have, I don't know, made a different decision or went a different way when it came to hiring or developing, or is there any one or two lessons that you might want to share coming from where you've come from to where you are now?
Sure. I think a lot of them are things that I probably heard before I made the mistakes, and you just don't really care until you do it yourself, and then it's too late. I mean, I can tell everyone the exact recipe to follow to get here and do what we're doing, and then there will be 40 different outcomes. So I'm sure anyone who's done that can agree and understand that. But they say hire quickly but fire faster, or however that goes. It sucks, and it's especially if you've raised money and things like that. If you're bootstrapping it, that's even more important. But if you're bringing people in to work for you and you've done a really good job vetting them, it's tough to try to balance how long do you let them go and try to fulfill what you all think they can do versus how quickly you just sort of say, it's not going to happen, let's move on. And that's really important because when you're not making money as a pre-revenue startup, you can't mess around and you can't afford to make those kinds of mistakes. So that's something that we've done that obviously with our turnover, but that's something that we could have done if we could have done it sooner. Maybe that'd be something I'd try to do. It's hard because they're people and you're friends with them, and unfortunately you can't pay to have friends, or at least not if you want to have a startup that's going to be around long. So that's definitely one of them.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we want to ask for your help in spreading the word about 1 Million Cups. If you would please tell your friends, tell your other aspiring entrepreneurs in your life about 1 Million Cups. Have them apply on the website. We'll coach them through the application process. It's really friendly and fun. So it's better to apply early, and then we can kind of help the business prepare for their presentation when they are ready. So they don't need to be ready and feel like they have it all together to apply to present. Also tell your friends, bring a guest with you. The conversations that happen before and after 1 Million Cups are incredibly priceless. We have story after story after story of just the right connection or just the right introduction being made that completely changed the course of a business. So definitely hang around for that. And I think that we need to give UCF a shout out as well. Melissa, are you guys providing any sound equipment here? Okay. UCF Incubator also has been a huge supporter of 1 Million Cups, so I do want to give them a shout out. If you have any questions about the incubation program that UCF offers, please see Melissa, wave your hand so they know who you are. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming out. If you didn't get your ticket validated, is the stamp on the table?
I didn't see a stamp.
Okay. Okay, so you want to make sure you're parking in the parking garage off of Park Avenue back there. You can get your ticket validated. We'll have a stamp out here so you don't have to pay for parking. Also, Natalie put up a sign-up sheet out here by the coffee for your email address. Please get on that email list because Rollins is really wonderful to us, but we have to flex with their schedules as well, which means we may be changing auditoriums across the campus in the coming weeks, and I don't want you to show up at the wrong auditorium and miss our awesome presentation. All right, thanks so much for coming, guys.